are listening to Parallel Fiction, a podcast that celebrates storytellers across all mediums. Each episode, we weave together two stories within a common theme and then analyze their meaning on everyday life. This week's theme is Irish stories. I'm Heather.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're Parallel Fiction.
Yes.
So
this is episode 25.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's quarter of 100. That's
half
a huge
50.
Milestone. Yeah, half 50. But
it's like
that's big for us.
Silver anniversary, right?
I don't know that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like traditional wedding things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's silver.
But that's, congrats to you.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations to you, little kitty.
Yeah, we got a cat
She
going
just
through.
wandered through.
She's the silver gift.
She is. Maybe she'll make an appearance on the video.
Yeah, I don't know.
Be exciting.
But hi guys, how's it going? Anybody who's watching and or listening?
I know, now we got both. I'm
Yeah.
still, the video thing is still very new.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, I swivel in my chair nonstop.
You do.
So I gotta stop doing that.
Well, you're fidgety.
Yeah, that's true. But
I think it's normal.
yeah, totally normal. But when you watch yourself do something, you're hyper aware. So the first couple episodes we did this, I was like, oh no, I breathed too deeply. I gotta cut that out.
It's just natural stuff.
Yeah, now I'm just like, whatever, man.
Since it's the 25th episode, do we want to just kind of do a quick little
so
reintroduction, I guess?
If you're just jumping on, we got some fun stuff for you.
So I'd say we're a pop culture podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
we teach life lessons through movies and books. We find the inner
try and find the diamond in the rough, so to speak, even though a lot of these things that we cover very critically. But I like to tell people it's like the part in South Park where they're like, I learned something today.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. At the end of the
hopefully.
episode, I feel like you should have some sort of sense of
yeah.
Ooh, that clicked.
So we had 24 chances so far to help you learn
Hopefully
something.
one of them clicked.
Hopefully somebody, yeah. Because that's a little why we do this in the first place, just to, especially with the pandemic and stuff. And now there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so it's just to try and find some kind of meaning.
Exactly. So the way we structure our episodes, we have our little intro and then we go into kind of summarizing our individual stories. So whether that's movies or books, comics,
Video games.
We've done video games, TV episodes. We've done, I think, only one TV episode.
Yeah, that's right.
Huh, we gotta get some more TV episodes going.
Get on that.
After we each get a chance to tell our summary, then we dive into some analysis.
Mm-hmm. That's where we really kind of disassemble the stuff and find out why in last episode Logan Lucky and Joy Luck Club have things in common, even though they on paper don't.
Right. There's some things where you're like, I don't even know how you're going to make that work. And it's so weird. There's
Just
definitely,
whip it up.
There's been times where we've picked just two random things, not knowing anything about the other person's work. And they've tied together so nicely.
Exactly.
And then there's parallels.
Exactly. So that's the deal for new listeners. If you just jumped on at episode 25, I think we'll probably do this at episode 52 just to give the lay of the land, because you never know. But
little landmarks.
Yeah.
So people know what they're getting themselves into. But yes.
Yeah, but we appreciate you guys coming back. Whether you found us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're on those two. We're also on Simplecast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, YouTube now.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And then do you want to tell us where to go on social media if you want to talk to?
Absolutely. If you're looking for us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Parallel Fiction, on Facebook as Parallel Fiction Podcast. And then if you want to send us an old-fashioned email, you can email us at parallelfictionpod@gmail.com.
Yes. And we don't have an official YouTube name yet because we just started this today, actually. So once we get the 100 subscribers, it'll probably be youtube.com/parallelfiction. But
yes,
just search us and you'll find us.
Give us a follow.
Yes. But before we do anything, we got to do some rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, it didn't crack. Okay.
Oh, wait. There we go. All right. Going down this time.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Always the scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay, so
2 weeks in a row. So we forgot to tell people what we're even doing this week.
We forgot to even say what
It's in the title,
yeah.
but we're doing the theme of luck, and
No.
that was last week.
Irish stories.
Irish stories.
You're just stuck on Logan Lucky because you love that so much.
I know I did. But I'll be doing the animated feature film, The Secret of Kells.
And I am covering a short story from Dubliners. So I'm not covering all the short stories, just one in particular.
Okay, and since I won the rock, paper, scissors, I'm picking you to go first when we come back.
All right.
All right, so let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Dubliners.
Okay, we're back. So let's get into some analysis.
Yeah, so kind of when we do these things, we realize that they're closer than we thought.
Always are.
So
I don't know
really
how.
don't
Yeah.
consult with each other. We just like
I had no idea what you were doing.
We just have like free reign over what we do. But I feel like there's some, like there's the uncle or father figure that's a little stern, and I don't know, like
some sort of like being held in a place.
Yeah.
And then trying to escape it.
Yeah. And like somebody trying to help them escape a little.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like we picked these stories and we wanted Irish voices to be heard.
Yeah.
We didn't want to pick anything that was like Americanized.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Irish culture has there's like a tradition to it. And I mean, I don't.
It's just so rich. Like I didn't know any of these things. Like I'm looking on YouTube to like backstory, like the fairies and the whatever. And I'm like, I knew that there was some degree of like this folklore, like richer than what you see or hear or anything like that, especially in American, pop culture. But I was like, this is cool, man. Like nobody talks about this stuff, like the Roman gods and the Greek gods and stuff. Like I want to have more stories like this.
Yeah. I feel like, unfortunately, here in the United States, and I don't want to make this about us by any means, but our education system's shit. And we're focused on like very much like wrong history in general. But like I've always been interested in history, and I would love doing these stories actually prompted me to look more into Irish history.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just so much I don't know. And
there's a lot there. Like I said, I was on a YouTube chain just like looking at, I'm going to say this wrong, the two-a-day Danon. Just like the fairy race.
But like, you're right. There's like this language and stuff. Yeah. And like, I have no concept of like Gaelic or any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of bringing this back into the stories, I guess like my character is faced with following tradition.
Yeah.
Versus breaking away and escaping tradition. And she's ends up being stuck in tradition. And since James Joyce kind of viewed like tradition, not in a poor light, but he just felt like it was stagnant.
Yeah.
I think it's so easily clear in all these stories with the ending. Like it just ends and it's like this feeling of like loss almost.
That's what you get.
Yeah. It just feels like, what was the point of this story? Like it just, she's in the same place she started with. It's like circular.
Yeah, it's supposed to like, you think, get you to realize like how bad it is to stay so close to tradition, you think?
I think so. I think that's kind of the lesson in the story in particular.
Yeah, and I mean in mine, I think tradition is almost like leaned into,
Right. That's like, where I feel like ours
there's
differ.
Apprentices and there's whatever, but like you also have to take into account like all of his time in the forest, Brendan's time in the forest, just learning new things and like I don't know, just finding like the mystical side of stuff.
Escaped.
Yeah, exactly.
And like was able to grow from it. You know?
That's true. Yeah, he broke tradition, but also stayed in tradition.
I feel like sometimes you have to like break the rules. I don't know. Wait, where was I going with this? Like you have to know the rules in order to break the rules.
Yeah.
In some sense. And then you get, once you break the rules, you have the option of going back to following that track or continuing to break the rules.
I think in my story too, there's like the physical embodiment of breaking the rules or breaking tradition in the Vikings, because they're just like literally destroying everything, like taking all the jewels and whatever treasures and just ruining stuff. And so I think there's that on the tail end of just, I don't know.
It's funny because the Vikings, you just did another story with Vikings in it with How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess they're kind of mean in that.
You
Because
know,
they're mean about the dragons, but then they're like funny too.
they're mean about the dragons. There's much different
Was that-
Vikings in this one.
That wasn't Disney, right? How to Train
It
Your
was
Dragon.
DreamWorks.
Yeah. Okay.
Disney probably owns them now, though. Who knows?
Probably. If they don't, they will.
Yeah, right. Oh, man.
Do you feel like your story like celebrated Irish culture?
Oh, absolutely. I was reading online though, and I don't think it did that well in Ireland, like the movie box office wise. So I don't know if they appreciated it, but I thought it was good. You'll have to tell us, I guess, if you're an Irish listener and you have heard of this movie before. But there's, like I said, just all the new stuff that I learned just from watching this, like all the language that I like was interested in, and I went and I watched the YouTube of, and because it's usually how I learn stuff these days.
It's useful, definitely.
Yeah. How about you?
So it's the same thing where like I don't know if James Joyce is like celebrated
If he's
or
like
not.
cool with it or not.
Like I don't know if he's a celebrated figure in Ireland or not.
Yeah.
But he is a classic author, and I know he's respected in some sense. So I mean, I would say Dubliners itself is the culture, not necessarily like the plot, but like I feel like it's a celebrated work of literature.
Yeah. And
I think the themes and stuff within in Dubliners, and is in particular in Evelyn, doesn't necessarily celebrate Irish culture, but it's just more of like
puts it out there.
Yeah.
Like a you decide kind of thing.
And it's realism. Like Dubliners is supposed to feel like realistic, like it could be you. It's not like a fantasy.
Yeah. And
it's specifically for like Irish middle class in Dublin at this time period. So I feel like having that very, very specific location and very specific kind of person, I think that's what kind of almost makes it classic and makes it part of the culture, because it's like real life.
Yeah. How do you think the landscape kind of played in your story at all? Like, is there any, I mean, you always think of like the green hills and that kind of stuff, like the ocean. And
it's interesting that one, we came up with this topic, and two, I feel like it did play out in my novel or in this short story. Because it literally opens with her looking out her window and being like, looking at the change and being like, my green field is gone.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's so what the story is about. Like the overall arching theme is like things have been like the green is gone and now it's just like new houses, and like that's lame.
Because in my story, like there is no real green until he leaves the abbey, you know, and then he goes into the forest and see all that stuff. So I think it's like a contrast of like the coldness of his situation. And I mean, he dedicates his life to being a monk, I guess. They call each other like brother this and brother that. So I don't really know what they are exactly. I'd say like some kind of monk, but I don't know. It's just like a very cool way to depict, and like that kind of art, the illumination style has such colors too, like cool colors, you know, because it has to differentiate from one another, and there's like depth of the layers. I don't know. I sound like an idiot, but no,
I know what you
know
mean.
what I'm talking. If you've
like
ever
visually.
seen, So I think the whole art style of the movie is kind of like that a little bit. Like it's simplistic with the character design, but the backgrounds are really cool, and just the way they use color kind of, you know, it makes you feel like you're looking at like the green hills or whatever. Like, I don't know. It just gets you in the mood, right?
Oh, I love
that
it.
Makes sense.
We got to get, that's like one of our places we really like want to go.
Yeah. So let's talk about the characters. How do you feel your character grew or didn't grow in your story?
She didn't.
But like, did she a little?
She did
in a way.
In a way, but like,
there was a little more self-aware of her situation, you know, like this is what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do.
I don't know. So Evelyn, you think she has this transformation, this growth. Like, she's like, I'm going to escape this. I'm not going to be like my mother. I'm going to break tradition. I'm going to go explore the world and see that, like,
break the chain
and see the country. And she, you know, I think she was infatuated with Frank.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think she was also hesitant about him, because she makes some comment like, he's going to drown me. And I think she was worried of like losing herself. Yeah. Herself, like her sense of self, her culture, her childhood home, her memories. I think she was afraid that if she left, she would lose all that.
Yeah.
So I think she had growth in some sort of way. But at the end, she also just circled back and she was exactly where she started.
Yeah.
How about
I
you?
guess that makes sense. See, I mean, my main character is a little kid for most of the movie, so the growth I guess he goes through is just like the bravery of trying to figure all this stuff out, um, and like trusting his friends, and he gets so much help from brother Abbott or brother Aiden, and I don't know, like I'm trying to find where his like actual growth was. I mean, it was a cool movie and I liked it, but in terms of like, I don't know, like he gets the book, he's put in danger, he overcomes, and I think maybe if there was growth, it was like his experiences helped him better be prepared to write the book, because
right,
because obviously if you're fighting some character that's like the dark one, you're not a sinner, so
right.
automatically.
So do you think there's like some sort of climax or something that like sparked his change, or?
Not really. I guess when he meets Aisling, like,
oh yeah,
he has his like horizons broadened, I guess, to what's outside the wall.
And it sounds like she kind of helped him to grow.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, I think once he like left the wall and it became all like green visually and like, richer colors.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of helped spark his growth.
Yeah, maybe you need like the world experience to write better, even though your writing is mostly drawing.
But yeah. Experiences always help. And I feel like if Evelyn had gotten on the boat, she would have been happy too, because she would have been escaping and exploring and seeing the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Living in Buenos Aires. That sounds like a good time.
Would have been nice, yeah.
Do you think your story, had any sort of like Irish pride in it?
I think so, because I mean, the whole thing is like guarding this book, and like maybe it's not Irish pride per se, but it's just the pride of your work, the pride of like finishing what you start, and those are great things to be.
Well, and yours had like a folklore aspect to it too, and I feel like stories from like spoken stories, like folklore, in particular, are so important to like culture and like.
Oh, absolutely.
And being proud of like your culture is being proud of your country, I feel like.
Especially because like this book exists. It's like really cool. I was looking at pictures of it and stuff. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to look after this.
Yeah, it's like Christian. It's that. Forgot exactly. It's like 4 testaments of like Christian lore, I guess. But it's like illustrated in like that style. So it's like a very important like Christian book.
I don't know anything about it. Do you know if it's like Protestant or Catholic or?
I don't know.
Because I know that's like the
I should probably
the big thing.
No. I mean, I'm sure you could find it, but I don't know.
We're gonna have to. I want to look it up after this.
Yeah.
And you should too.
But like the thing in the movie, they don't,
the listener.
Yeah. But in the movie though, they don't like give you any hint about what religion it is, because they're talking about Irish gods that like.
Right. Okay, so I guess probably.
So there's no like crosses in it or anything like that. But
it's
the real book.
Probably prior to like any sort of conflict between Protestants.
Yeah, it was like 800 AD.
Catholics.
They said.
Oh yeah. So long before any conflict. Whereas mine is like, more relevant to modern history, and and I know Ireland was going through a lot at this time.
Yeah.
And like this book came out right before the First World War happened too. So
that's
even the world is like in a conflict, and like, I mean, honestly, even the famine really wasn't not that distantly removed from this too. So I feel like this work has sort of an Irish pride in it, not specifically the story, but like the actual Dubliners itself.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a very important part of the culture in some sense. It's like a literature staple.
Yeah. And that's what I think with like the filmmakers and the writers and directors and everything associated with the movie on like that end. There's like so much pride in this project just because, like I said, it brought these stories to like such a wider audience. Like I never would have known any of this stuff if I didn't see this movie, just living my life, doing what I do. So it's definitely a cool thread to like explore.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to keep looking at more of this kind of stuff too. So
yeah, I feel like
inspired to
in general,
check
like
it out.
You forget there's so much world out there, and that there's so many creators around the world, and I feel like just because of specifically where we are, we only find, like, I think people are like not blocked, but
Yeah.
we're fed what's around us. Yeah.
It's an algorithm.
It
You're gonna
is,
get
it
shown
is.
what's close to you and find out, like the internet too, even it's not gonna like show you stuff that's happening necessarily
Right.
in other things, Like I had to Google like a list of like Irish movies that nobody's ever heard of. And not that nobody's ever heard of, but you know what I mean? And there was
Right.
just so many movies that were made in Ireland that like we just didn't get here. And I'm like, oh, these are all kind of cool. I think I'm gonna check these out.
And you got to think about all the different kinds of things, music and literature
Yeah.
and sports and
Absolutely.
language. Like there's so much that goes into it. And I feel like it's definitely prompted me a little bit more to like, I was like sitting there reading all the history. I was like, I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely know US history. Like, oh God. That's a
that's
whole other boat.
And that's like another like regional thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we
Even
have
within America.
South history and we have Northern
Yeah.
history. So, and
Not everybody gets the same one.
Yeah, everybody gets fed something different depending on what state you're in.
Yeah.
And honestly, depending on where you are in the state, even sometimes. Depending on what school district you're in.
Yeah.
Depending on who your teacher is. So, yeah.
Depending on what their dinosaur policy is.
Ooh, that got me.
Yeah.
Your dinosaur policy. I have some friends that could argue on either side of that.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, that was cool. I think I learned a lot about Ireland from both stories. So do you want to take a quick break and we'll come back and give our ratings and recommendations?
Sounds good.
All right, very cool. Thank you for joining us. We'll take a quick break and come right back.